Douglas Lyons, welcome to Cultural Attache.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about your play Table 17, which is currently in previews at the Geffen Playhouse in Los Angeles for an opening on November 13th and running through December 7th. How does it feel to be revisiting this play that was such a great success for you in New York?
I mean, it's an honor, it's an experiment because the Geffen is like three times the size of what we did at MCC in New York. And like final dress, first preview, I was like, I don't know. And they ate it up. I'm excited for LA audiences to have the story because I think they're going to be even more responsive than the New York audiences. And there's just a lot of love in the room. You can feel it.
Well, I want to start by asking you about an interview that you did with Ashley Lee of the Los Angeles Times. And you said of your
Mhm.
experience with Chicken and Biscuits on Broadway that it revealed to you that, quote, maybe I'm not writing for New York. I'm not writing for critics. I'm writing for audiences. I'm writing for Black women. Was there a
Mm.
sense of liberation with that realization?
I think so because I've realized that the world is bigger than New York. Like we compare Broadway to the NBA or the NFL, like it is the top tier of theater. Uh, but as a writer, because I'm an actor as well, as a writer, you really can take your stories wherever they're received. So this year alone, I've been in Los Angeles twice. At I Am a Theater Company in February with Don't Touch My Hair, and then back in October, November at the Geffen with Table 17. And it's a gift to be a storyteller wherever you are. So I think that realization made me realize like, go where they want your story and let that be the beauty. And that's what I'm doing.
How much has being an actor on stage, and for people who don't know, you spent 6 years in Beautiful the musical, you were in Book of Mormon, you were in the recent revival of Parade. How much does that experience as an actor inform how you think about writing for actors? And how much does your writing get informed by your experiences having been an actor?
So the actor in me now looks at a script and goes, what did the writer intend? Not what do I intend, but what did they intend based on the text alone? And the actor in me, when I'm writing, I look like a crazy person when I'm in my room alone because I go through every single line for tempo. I have my own iambic pentameter that I try to create, even if it's contemporary language. And I think by the time an actor gets it, hopefully it feels natural because I've spent so much time combing through it.
I'm sure there are senses of discovery that happen when you hear how other actors say your lines, though, too.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a collaboration in what they need to go further. So there's been, I sent out an email before we came to Los Angeles to these three actors going, you have the script. Are there any questions? Are there any concerns? Before I do a rewrite, I always do a polish before any production or reading. And yeah, you have to trust them and listen to them, but you also have to go, okay, but I also want to hear it this way, so let's try. It's a constant collaboration and conversation around the text.
And we'll get to table 17 in just a second, but I do want to ask you one more thing because it is topical about Chicken and Biscuits, which is you're going to have a big night in Queens on November 24th for the fifth
Yes.
anniversary reading of the play with many of the original cast members. What are your expectations about what you might discover or what experience you might have with your play 5 years after Broadway and its massive regional success?
I mean, I've seen seven or eight regional productions. I've flown to like six of them. I think I want the 24th to be a celebration of joy. That's my writing mission in general. It will be very heartwarming to be back in the room with that specific group of people, a lot of alums and a few new people. Um, and like I've seen the play and been like, I could change that line. So there are definitely thoughts in my brain. Chicken and Biscuits was one of my first, it was the first play I wrote. And I've grown since then. I've written like four or five plays since then. So it's going to be a party, and there's just so much love and talent in that cast. And I'm so proud of what that play has gone on to do in the regions.
If it gives you any consolation, I recently did an interview with K. Todd Freeman, who told me
Uh-huh.
that Tony Kushner is still making changes to Angels in America.
I mean, the work is never done. I always say that the work is never done. And you hear it, you're like, oh, that line could be funnier or that could be simpler. So I'm always studying to make the work better.
Right. Now, Table 17 is the second play in a trilogy called the Deep Breath Trilogy, with Chicken and Biscuits having been the first. This is a romantic comedy, and I think it's truly one of the toughest genres of all to pull off because there's so many
Mm.
expectations of what it is. What were the challenges for you in bringing something fresh to the romantic comedy genre?
Well, we're breaking form, right? You haven't seen it yet. You've
I've
read it,
read
but you
it
haven't
though.
seen it.
You are definitely
Okay.
breaking form.
Yes, I'm definitely breaking form in the theater in that it breaks the fourth wall. So this play is heavily inspired from the rom-coms of the 1990s, early 2000s. Two Can Play That Game, Love Jones, Love and Basketball, etc. And so you have that sort of smize of love in a Black story, but then I also paired it with the opportunity of stand-up comedy. And so the characters themselves are able to break the fourth wall and talk to the audience and go, is my outfit okay? Do I look okay for this date that you're about to watch me go on? So they like there's an inherent investment in the characters before they've even met up. And it was an experiment and it was rough to figure out because in the rehearsal room, you really realize once you get to production that that audience is your fourth character. They are going to let you know how the evening's going to go. And surprisingly and excitingly, here in LA, they are talking. You have like 90-year-old white women seated next to like 20-year-old Black women all screaming at play. And that is to me, community and what theater should do. It should engage and commune. So it's very exciting that way.
I actually saw that happen when I went to Long Beach, California to see Interview with a Vampire. And when Antonio
Mhm.
Banderas came on, there was a woman who was sitting in the back of me who went, is that what I call a vampire?
Yep, there's a lot of that happening in places that we didn't expect. There's some built-in talk to us moments, and then on the first preview, there were moments where people were just like, "Ooh, ah, ooh," and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna have a riot. It's a party. It's a party." Yeah.
Is that amount of response from the audience something you anticipated on the level that you're getting?
No, it is beyond that. It is honestly beyond that. I'm and because the space is three times the size of MCC, you have more people. We had maybe 150 seat. I think the gates is 512. So you have an opportunity for more people to respond. There are a lot of younger Black folks that I've seen through the doors already, and a lot of Black men. And there's a Black male character that, like in New York, everyone was like, "Boo!" And here they're like, "Yo, we see you." So it's a really fun experiment for the audience. You're not just coming to a play where you sit for 2 hours and maybe wipe a tear and go home. You are engaged and you're allowed to have opinions.
Now, since you mentioned, some of the movies that inspired you, I wanted to quote, Darius Lovehall and Love Jones because I think it sort of sets up what every romantic comedy is, which is he says in the movie, romance is about the possibility of the thing. So,
Mm,
so we know that in a romantic comedy that two people are meant to fall in love and that they do, but they're not going to get there until the end of it because the writers have put obstacles in their way. And that's the beauty
mhm,
of a romantic comedy. What was the
mhm.
process of your figuring out exactly what those right obstacles were going to be for Jada and Dallas?
What's fascinating is that it's not traditional because them getting together is in the past. And this meet cute of them reuniting that we don't know where they like both of them doesn't know where the other is in their life. So it's more of a rom-com of hope, of maybe, of possible. Like you really don't know what's going to happen. And the beauty is actually in reverse. You get to go back to when they were in love and what got them to the table. So as I was writing it, there was a moment, I was on page like 37. I called Jalen Livingston, the director, and I said, I'm stuck. I don't really know where to go here. And he shared a story of an ex that he had and how he realized the dynamic between that ex and another person. And I went, okay, I got to get off the phone. You just gave me something. And that introduced a new character. So I've been listening to the play. It always felt very authentic from page one because you just hear the heartbeat of a character who's in love with another. And watching that unfold is the hope. But then midway through, you realize, oh, these people actually they don't work. So how is this going to end up? And that is the excitement in watching.
Well, and the excitement in reading it, Douglas, was that you pull a real hard obstacle to them late in the play. like one I have never seen before. And
Ah,
I just went, wow. It's like, what was that moment for you when you thought that's the thing I should do? And we shouldn't give it away, but what was that?
yeah, I don't think I knew. Because we workshop often. We did the first workshop. The play was commissioned by Newark's Provincetown in 2022. I actually finished this play backstage when I was in Parade on Broadway. So our first reading was in September of 23 in Provincetown, and it was a lot of like, is this going to work? We're not really sure, asking questions. So some of the details that are actually in this version at the Geffen were not in the MCC version. Um, every time we do the play, I listen to make sure that you're constantly surprised as the viewer, but also that you're consistently invested as well. And so it's a listening. It's like, well, what do you need? Like, what is going to throw the audience and make it think, make them think it's going in this direction, and then it circles back. But the beauty of coming back to the table is both these characters are flawed, and you have to flaw them both. And, without giving away the end of the play, it's not who did what, but is the love worth fighting for? That's what the play is about.
As you're giving me that answer, Douglas, I'm going, how do you keep Jason Robert Brown's music alive and something you can accomplish on a nightly basis and still be writing a play at the same time?
So, did you see the Parade revival?
I did.
Okay, so you would know that we were on stage for the majority of it. So that was the hard part. I did ask for a 5 minute break because there was something very triggering in the play that I didn't want to watch over and over again. And Michael Arden was kind enough with stage management to allow me to go off. In that 5 minute break, I would go up, three stairs in the tower to my computer. I would write a little something, go back down. At intermission, I would write. In Act Two, when I had a little break, I would write between shows on a 5 show weekend or a 2 show day. I would write. I would take a nap, order in, get up, work, for an hour. And Christopher Gurr, who was my roommate at Parade, he when I finished it, he was like there that day. So yeah, I rarely did it during the show, but once I found my engine of where the story was going, it became that buzz that I wanted to get back to. And when you have that hum, as I call it, then you're like up all night writing and sleeping enough to do the show, and it's like a calling to come back to the page. But I finished, I think it was like July, July of 23. I finished the play.
Well, the nice thing is Parade is such a lighthearted, happy-go-lucky show. It's no wonder you were able to be in this headspace.
Yeah, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. And when I first got the commission, which was 22, I went to Provincetown and I wrote the first 10 pages and did a Zoom reading. And I was supposed to finish the play by the end of 22, but then I booked Parade at City Center. So I had to let them know, this is gonna, take a little bit. And then it went to Broadway and I was like, it's gonna take even longer. And they were like, okay. I was like, but it's gonna be worth it. And it has been. It has been. Yeah.
I read a lot of scripts, and it's rare that a play gets me to laugh out loud. And Table 17, I actually laughed out loud several times. How
Oh,
do you
thank
know
you.
when something you've written is funny and without hearing somebody else say it?
I've learned to trust my comedy. I've learned to trust the ridiculous things that my mother and father would say to me when I was being raised, the humor that is specifically Black humor and the way that we relate to each other when we're in private spaces. And Chicken and Biscuits, Beau, and some of these other projects that I've worked on have taught me just trust it and try it. And if you put it in the hands of a really smart actor, it's going to land. I also had the blessing of working on Fraggle Rock, which taught me structure of a joke and the blow of a joke and the setup. And so, I watch a lot of TV, and I study what makes theater and television and film very good, and I just try to funnel that through my voice. Um, and I've learned to trust my silly, and in trusting my silly, it has created this fearlessness where I'm like, it may be a bad joke, but the good thing about a bad joke is you can make it good again. And so that's what, Table 17, I think, confirmed is like your silly is worth exploring. And, you give it to brilliant actors and the rest is history.
I think you just gave me the heading for this story. I learned to trust my silly.
Here we go.
There we go.
It,
So it all
because
works.
everyone's silly is different. Everyone's silly is different. And, there might be other Black queer writers who I came up with or I know, but our silly is different. So our pages are going to be different. And I've learned to really identify my voice, trust it, and live in it. And it's changed my life.
But that's also to be expected because, your Black queer experience is not the same as anybody else's and vice versa.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Um, Now, you did mention that you made little kind of tweaks, for this production. In fact, the script I read was just dated November 4th. So we're only talking
Mhm.
about 3 days ago. Um,
Yeah.
is that more about who the actors are or just something about finessing, what you think works better now that maybe you wished you had changed previously?
Well, from the first production, we wanted to make sure that Dallas as a character had a little bit more equality in the story so that we didn't pinpoint him as the reason that everything went wrong. So, previous to me getting here, I did a draft that sort of took out some of his apologies and held her accountable in the same way. Something that's very fun in the script is that there are references to a local basketball team, a local basketball star, an airport. That will change for every production. And so in New York, it was the Knicks. And since we're in LA, it's the Clippers. So that was a change. And then because of the size of the stage and the manner of it being three actors, I had to add a scene because of a quick change, because they just didn't have enough time because, it plays with flashback and stuff, that I had to add like a singlet scene for that. So it's like a production need, but then also you're thinking, well, if it's in a black box or on a main stage proscenium, people are going to need time to change. So we probably want to keep the scene. So there were little tweaks that way. Yeah.
And it was wise to talk about the Clippers rather than Lakers. Lakers are religion in Los Angeles.
I I know I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to touch it. So yeah, yeah. But I think it's going to be so fun. We've already had some requests for it to be done in the regions. So I can't wait to fly around the country and see different table 17s. I cannot wait. I really can't.
It's not
Yeah.
necessarily going to be the luckiest table in every city, is it?
It may not be. I actually went and saw Samara Joy, the jazz Grammy Award winning artist, at the Blue Note while I was working on the play. I think it was my birthday in 23, and I was seated at table 17 on my receipt.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's the world speaking to you, isn't it?
Yes. It was confirmation of so many. And now the number 17 pops up everywhere in my life.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the idea of joy because the thing I love about your work is that you allow space for Black joy and for queer joy. And
Yes.
so many stories that we get exposed to do none of that. They want
Mm,
to because drama seemingly is more important, or that there's much more to learn about the trauma of life than the joy of life. Um,
mm.
Obviously, joy is important to you, but why do you think joy has been missing from so many other stories?
I don't think it's the stories. I think it's the programming. I think theater loves to be highbrow. Theater likes to be an elitist form, and I think that is whack. I think you're missing out on a generation of people that would love to come to the theater, but the stories you're choosing to program tell them they're not smart enough. The writing is not highbrow or important enough. The subject matter is, I know comedies. I was told before Chicken Biscuits went to Broadway that comedies are sort of looked down upon, are not regarded in the same way as dramas and things. And I think that's a mistake. I think there's a generation of kids and young people that would love to spend $35 to see a new play if they felt like it was worthy of their time and that they would see themselves in it. And I don't think we always think about them. And that's what my mission is to think about them. So also with where the world is right now, the last thing you want to do is walk into a theater where someone is being oppressed and held down when you can look on, your feed for that. So I feel like joy is an offering for people to get through what we're living through right now. And if I can be that conduit with my page, I'm all about it.
At the risk of making, perhaps a weak comparison or maybe a strong one, that'll let you tell me. It's like, would it be so awful if you became the Neil Simon of this generation?
I mean, I've been called compared to Norman Lear. as well, who coincidentally is from New Haven, Connecticut, where I'm from. I think it's an honor, but again, I'll be the Douglas Lyons version because my voice is different.
Of course.
I that would be an honor. It would all be an honor. I think to offer also different things in theater is necessary. I think genre-wise, we get caught up with what is worthy and what isn't. And I think that's a mistake. In film and TV, you have horror, you have rom-com, you have suspense, you have drama, you have all these things, but in theater, it's not like, oh, well, let's make space for something that's a little bit goofier. If you want, your taste buds can have a different arrangement of offerings, and we don't present it that way. It's either good or bad, worthy or unworthy. And I think that is whack. I think it's so past tense.
Right. The only reason I brought up Neil Simon, of course, is because he's the only comedy playwright who has a theater named after him in New York.
Well, I'll take it, Neil. I will take it. I will take it. Yeah. Yeah. That's really awesome.
So you mentioned that in February of this year you were out here for the workshop production of Don't Touch My Hair, which is the third
Yes.
play in your trilogy. What did that workshop teach you, and what does the future hold for that play?
A workshop taught me it's highly technical, highly effective, and people, again, I write things that cause opinions, which is great. They say like not having an opinion is the worst thing. Being ambivalent about something is like not great. So I was excited to see the work by the end of the run. We only had 9 performances. They had added a row of 20 seats and they were selling out. The word had gotten out and people were very engaged with it. And then there's an exciting thing that's happening where the show already has a production at the Unicorn Theater in Kansas City. And there is negotiation of a couple other productions as well. So people have begun to read the work and go, oh, and oddly enough, 2 theaters reached out to me and said, Table 17. And I said, not yet. But how about this? And they went, oh my God, we'll do this. And that's happening with Don't Touch My Hair. Yeah.
Well, I'm envisioning a theater that's smart enough to program all three in repertoire.
There is a way to do it with 11 actors.
Take a
There's a
note
way to
of
do it with
that.
11
Take a
actors.
note of that, producers and theater companies.
Yeah, you can do all three with in rep with 11 actors. Yep.
Um, this is not the only production that you have going on right now. St. Luke's Theater is very busy in New York with Beau the Musical, which has, been brought back to life and will be running through January 26th, unless it gets extended again. Um,
January 4th.
no, I think they just announced a new extension.
They didn't tell me. We are supposed to do no, I think it's January 4th, not the 26th. I don't
Maybe
think
I'm
so.
right. It wouldn't be the first time I'm mistaken, Douglas. So it's quite possible.
I'm like, but you know what? You spoke it, so we're going through January 26th. I think it's no, it's January 4th, 2026. That's what it is.
That could be it. And that
Yeah,
this is what happens when I haven't had my martini. Um,
yeah.
as somebody who studied musical theater at the Hart School, what does it mean to you to have this musical up on stage, and what plans is there for life for this show beyond New York City?
I'm It's been such a journey to get it here. Every time we do Bo, it's very moving to people, and that's an honor for me. Um, I also really take pride in carrying and trying to cast Hart School students in my work. So Michael Rashawn, who graduated 2 years after me and became my little brother at the Hart School, is starring in Table 17, and he won the Lucille Lortel Award and the Outer Critics for his performance. And then Seth Elliser is in this production, and my friend Jeremy Savelovitz was in the production downtown. Those are Hart School grads. So that's really cool to be going, hey, fellow alumni, come with me. But Bo is like, it's its own thing. I call it, the child of Rent meets Once, but queer. And when I actually was here doing Don't Touch My Hair when I got the call that it was happening just earlier this year, I was like, are you sure? And they said yes. And so when we did it the first time and it became what it became, and then we're like, you think we want to bring it uptown? I was like, okay. And people are coming and people are moved. And I think it's a story that can be done quite often in the regions. I think we're maybe looking at London and something maybe international as well. But it's a compact, jolt of love, music, and legacy. And I've loved to see families of all different stripes come and they weep in this room together. Uh, it's really, really important.
Speaking of weeping, um, I feel like Chicken and Biscuits was one of many shows that had the weight of producers rushing to put Black voices on stage in the
Hmm.
2021-2022 season. And there were a
Hmm.
number of plays and shows, as you know, that might have done very well artistically, but did not do well financially. And I'm talking
Hmm.
about Passover, Thoughts of a Colored Man, Trouble in Mind, Clyde's Slave Play, Skeleton Crew for Colored Girls Revival, etc. Do you feel like that season put an undue amount of pressure on all of the creators of those plays, as if it doesn't work this season, well then, we the producers can say, well, we gave it a shot.
I think you take pressure where you allow it to give you pressure. For me, I understood why we were all programmed. It was off the heels of George Floyd. I am not an idiot. I know exactly why. You know what happened. I'm obviously not grateful that what happened to him happened, but I am grateful that it made people think twice about the way they were programming. For me, I did feel a pressure to succeed, but also it taught me success is beyond the pearly gates of Broadway. So because it was on Broadway, people went, "What is this?" And then people wanted to do it. And it created so many relationships. Sometimes you don't get the things you want in the way that you want them, but you have to be prepared for what you're worth. And what I was worth was the possibilities thereafter. And I think that's what I learned from that moment is like, Chicken and Biscuits was not the thing I thought was going to be going to Broadway. I tell you, that was not, it was so not even in my purview. So when it happened, I literally was like Cinderella tripping over herself at the ball. But I, pressure is something you allow. And now I try, I'm not very good at this all the time, but I try to go, but what are the people saying? What is the laughter happening in the room? If you're doing that, you're winning hearts. My musical Beau in New York right now, there are people that have seen it between 15 and 18 times. And there's a woman who got a tattoo. You can't fake that. That is just response. And so the pressure for me is to make sure I'm moving people. If I don't hear a laugh in the first 5 minutes, that's pressure for me. But I can't control the outcome of what the show becomes in the larger, picture.
Right, of course. Well, let's go back a ways. Let's go back to when you were playing Tony in West Side Story at
Oh my
at
gosh.
Hill Career Regional School in New Haven. Um,
Yes.
what did you learn from that early experience that you think informed your goals and your aspirations for your career? And do you think that you were probably, what, 16 when you did that?
I was 17. I was 17. I graduated at 17. There's the number again.
There you go.
And I remember a moment, I think I was singing Maria and Maria, 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 Maria. It's before the most beautiful, there's like a small refrain. The most beautiful sound I've ever heard, Maria. Before that part, the audience like applauded and I had to stop. I remember going, wait, it's not over yet. I got to sing the rest of it. But I remember feeling that pull and that relationship in performance to audience. It was so magical. I'd never felt anything like, oh, people are listening to me, they're looking at me, and I have an effect on them with something that is a God-given talent. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. And I didn't know that I could do the same thing with words until I started writing. But it was and I had played basketball for 7, 8 years leading up to that. That was the first high school production I did. I got into one theater program. I found out that there was a musical theater major very late into my senior year. It's all been ordained in its perfect way, and it has not been a traditional way because for the first 10 years of my career, I was in Broadway shows and national tours, which I loved. And then I discovered writing, and I was like, oh, wait, I can save my ankles a little bit and maybe okay, wait, let's try both at the same time. And that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
So do you think that 16 or 17-year-old would look at you now and go, wow, how the hell did you get here?
You know what? He wouldn't. He would be like, damn right. Because since the moment I got to college, I left. I took a year off to go on the Rent National Tour at 19 years old. I was auditioning for Rent at the end of my freshman year. I've always been ambitious. And it's a gene that I think is just in me, no matter where I am. I'm just like, how do we get it? And I do this for my friends, for my partner. I'm like, let's, the world is out there. How do we? And so I think he would be 17-year-old Douglas would be like, oh, how cool. The writing would be the shock. I didn't write scripts. I wrote music for 5 years before I wrote scripts because I was afraid to fail. So the fact that my name has been in the credits on a television show blew my mind. That is not something I expected. I think 17-year-old Douglas would be surprised about that.
The lesson there is never be afraid to fail.
Period. Period. And that's what each play is for me. I'm working on a new one right now that is supposed to go up next summer. And I'm like, okay, we're on page 57. I hope it will be received well. But I will try and try again, one success, you can't just ride that. I think you got to keep investing in the work. Um, but I'm unafraid to fail at this point because at one point I almost did not finish table 17 because I got stuck.
And here we
And
are.
that would have been
Now we're
sad.
talking about, another production of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A West Coast premiere at one of the best theaters in the city. I'm so, so grateful.
Sounds great. Well, good luck with the run in Los Angeles. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And I can't wait to see what happens with the Big River musical.
Me too. We will see.